Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely flip the script on everything you thought you knew about the microbial world. For decades, we've focused our microscopes mainly on bacteria, just assuming they were the sole masters of their microscopic domains. But recent research has revealed a very, very different story. We are going to reveal the true masters pulling the strings right behind the scenes.
Think about it for a second. Bacteria always get the spotlight, don't they? From the fermentation happening in our guts to the complex nitrogen cycles in our soil, they get all the credit for driving microbial ecosystems. But today, we're going to look at the fascinating, totally invisible conductors dictating their every single move. These conductors are called Archaea, and as we'll see, they aren't just passively living alongside bacteria, they are actively managing them.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're looking at the invisible rulers, the control valve concept, thermodynamics, the ammonia turf war, and finally, future applications.
Section 1. Invisible Rulers. Meet the Archaea.
Now, historically, Archaea have been famous mostly for being extreme survivors. Organisms that thrive in boiling hot springs or super acidic environments. But their true role is way more subtle and, honestly, way more powerful. They act as the invisible adjusters of the microbial world. They are quietly catching the metabolic byproducts of bacteria and pushing vital chemical reactions forward. It's like they're working backstage to shape the ultimate balance of the entire microbial community.
Section 2. The control valve. Managing the microbes.
So how exactly do these microscopic conductors manage what is essentially a loud, chaotic orchestra of bacteria? Think of it like a pressure gauge. Archaea act as a control valve. In a typical microbial community, bacteria produce a ton of waste, things like hydrogen, ammonia, and organic acids. And if that waste builds up, the pressure gets way too high, and bacterial metabolism just grinds to a total halt. Archaea step in as a vital waste receptacle. By consuming those specific byproducts, they lower the concentration, effectively opening the valve and allowing the bacteria's metabolic reactions to proceed smoothly.
Researchers have actually nailed down 4 distinct mechanisms through which Archaea dictate this bacterial activity. We're talking thermodynamic control, niche partitioning in the nitrogen cycle, direct parasitic control, and finally, leading the architecture of biofilms. We are going to explore all of these today because together they reveal an absolute web of interdependence. Before we get into the heavy chemistry, it's pretty mind-blowing to look at the more physical ways Archaea exert control. Take the tiny DPANN superphylum of Archaea, for example. Because they have incredibly limited genomes and metabolic abilities, they literally physically attach themselves to host bacteria. They act as parasites that manipulate the resource distribution of the whole community. On the flip side, in biofilm architecture, Archaea are the lead architects. They use structures like type 4 pili and Archaea to attach to surfaces first, generating the extracellular matrix and even laying down nanowires between cells. They're directly controlling the spatial layout and the close quarters interactions of mixed microbial biofilms.
Section 3. Thermodynamics. Hydrogen transfer.
All right, let's dive into this first major pillar of control, which solves a critical biological problem. In anaerobic, or oxygen-free environments, bacteria try to break down complex organic compounds. But oxidizing lower fatty acids, like propionic acid into acetic acid, is an endergonic reaction. Think of it like trying to push a massive boulder up a steep hill. It really struggles to proceed naturally. If the hydrogen gas produced during this reaction builds up even a tiny bit, that boulder rolls right back down and the whole process completely halts. By stepping in and consuming this troublesome hydrogen, Archaea shift the chemical equilibrium. They actively pull the reaction forward. This interspecies hydrogen transfer is absolutely essential for the bacteria's survival.
The really crucial takeaway here is this heavily interdependent symbiotic relationship. Archaea essentially hold the metabolic switch. See, the bacteria produce the hydrogen, but they are trapped by it. The Archaea consume that hydrogen, constantly lowering the partial pressure. By keeping that hydrogen concentration incredibly low, the Archaea thermodynamically permit the bacterial oxidation to actually continue. Without the Archaea keeping that pressure valve open, the bacteria simply cannot function. The Archaea are entirely dictating whether the bacteria can metabolize or not.
Section 4. Ammonia turf war. Power shifts in soil.
Now, this thermodynamic control scales up into some massive turf wars in our soil and oceans. For the longest time, we just assumed bacteria were the sole drivers of ammonia oxidation in the environment, but recent metagenomic analysis completely overturned this. It turns out that ammonia-oxidizing Archaea, or AOA, vastly outnumber bacteria in both our oceans and soils. Why? Because Archaea have a remarkably high affinity for ammonia, making them far superior scavengers when resources are scarce. It's literally a microscopic niche war.
And the wild part is, the environmental concentration entirely dictates this handover of power. In low ammonia environments, which is typical for most oceans and standard agricultural soils, the AOA Archaea are the undisputed kings. But it isn't a total monopoly. When ammonia concentrations spike, say right after a heavy application of artificial fertilizers, the bacteria suddenly find the environment favorable and they seize dominance. So what we have is a highly dynamic, concentration-dependent power shift.
Section 5. Future applications. Environmental control. So why does this invisible, microscopic tug-of-war actually matter to us in the macro world? Well, the big takeaway from this explainer is that Archaea are the true puppet masters. They utilize these two highly sophisticated pillars, controlling the thermodynamic valves of metabolic waste and winning these concentration-dependent niche wars to completely dictate the structure, layout, and activity of the entire microbial community. They aren't just passively surviving out there. They are proactively curating their environment.
And because they curate their environment so well, we can actually utilize them to curate ours. By understanding exactly how this invisible control valve works, we are looking at revolutionizing agricultural fertilizers. For instance, by targeting that specific niche partitioning between archaea and bacteria, researchers are developing advanced microbial and enzymatic fertilizers that perfectly optimize the soil's nitrogen cycle. Beyond agriculture, this knowledge is going to allow us to supercharge environmental purification technologies and industrial fermentation processes just by manipulating the archaea to open the right metabolic valves.
It's honestly an incredible shift in perspective, isn't it? We went from pretty much ignoring archaea to realizing they are the unseen conductors of the whole microbial orchestra. I hope this explainer leaves you wondering just how much potential lies hidden in harnessing these invisible control valves. If these microscopic managers can dictate the flow of energy and nutrients at a cellular level, mastering them might just be the key to solving some of our biggest macro-level challenges in agriculture and climate change. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the true rulers of the microbial world.